Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, man, we're rolling. It's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight's episode 43 of Gridiron Grinder. So for tonight, we're going to do Name That Stadium like we always do, kick it off with that. Then we're going to talk about, just real quickly, some of the big news from the week in the NFL. And after that, the bulk of the show is going to focus around us providing our favorite draft picks from outside of the first round. And then lastly, we'll close things off with our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good again, man. I'm just, or going good. I'm just chilling on the couch again this week, but I'm not blurring the background this time. I didn't like the look of the video, so switching it up on you.
Makes sense.
Okay, well, yeah, let's jump into Name That Stadium. So for everybody who's watching, this is a part of the show where basically you can see James is out there traveling the country. Every week he puts a new stadium in his background, and we're asking our viewers, take a shot if you think you know what stadium that is. Pop your answer in our comments section, and if you get it right, you'll get a special shout out in the next week's show. And so where were you at last week, James?
Last week I was at Lambeau. I had a lot to do with the big news of the week of Rodgers wanting out or whatever concept has been put out there on it. It's turns out that it was a made up, not a made up story, but it was kind of like not new information.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And yeah, I want to hear what your thoughts are on that because I've heard a lot of different opinions throughout the week from current players, former players, all sorts of people that are just saying this thing's a mess and he's not coming back. But, I guess we'll cover that towards the end of the show, if you know what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that was your inspiration for last week, and next week you can tell us what you got going on tonight. So let's move it on here. Let's hit our recap of the past week. And so NFL news wise, one of the things that I just kind of saw, I've not read a ton about, but there was something going on with Buffalo and their GM Brandon Bean, supposedly making some kind of comment that they might cut unvaccinated players. And now I've heard something like the league is talking about interjecting to, warn him against doing that. Have you read about that? Have you heard about what's going on with that at all?
I heard a little bit about it. I guess yesterday or the day before, like in the last couple of days, he was on some radio station and he was asked if he would consider cutting unvaccinated players.
Okay, so he was like
And
baited into, yeah.
yeah, so he was asked if he would consider cutting unvaccinated players, and he said yes. And then apparently the league stepped in and called Buffalo up and said, "Hey, you can't cut players if they're not vaccinated. You have to have a different reason for it."
Okay, so
And
yeah, there,
that's so
yeah,
I
and
it's like a non-story.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's just a garbage thing. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because, being in the corporate world, there's a lot of talk about what you can and can't do with your employees. And in the private sector, it sounds like the employer has some power right now where you can force people to get vaccinated, and if they don't, you can let them go and move on, which is kind of aggressive. But uh, you know, um, we'll see. It kind of changes every week. It seems like there's new regulation. Different states are doing different things, and it's just crazy. There's such a rift about this whole COVID thing, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so other than that, there's been, I guess, some player news that we can hit on real quick because I don't have a whole lot to go through here, but I saw one of the McCourties, Jason McCourty, signed with the Dolphins. I really thought he'd get back to New England, even if it was going to be on a one-year deal or something. But he does have that connection with Brian Flores in Miami, having come from the Patriots. And so, I think it's a good spot for him to land. Plus, they already have two top cornerbacks. And so he's going in, and, whether they play him at cornerback or safety, he's going into a good group where, he's got some solid guys around him. So, I thought that was a good landing spot for him outside of New England, of course.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I must have just really flown under the radar because I haven't heard anything like in the last like week about any signings besides
Okay.
like the undrafted free agents.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think it was just a day or two ago it came out, but hey, no big deal. And then I saw the Lions released running back on Johnson. He was pretty quickly picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles. That one, it was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I know that we brought in Jamal Williams in free agency. Obviously, we drafted DeAndre Swift, early in the draft last year. But I thought on Johnson could have been a good, you know, third party, third person complement to that running back by committee, if that's the approach they decide to go with, which it looks like it is. Or at least just been good depth if one of those guys got hurt. But hey, Philly liked him. They picked him up, and Philly, aside from Miles Sanders, they got Boston Scott. Maybe he'll be that third person in that mix now. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, plus when he was with the Lions, like he was always getting injured, so I understood why they were cutting him. It's just he couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stay on the field. It's not worth the waste of money.
I got you. I got you. And that's tough with the injuries. Um, yeah, it is a factor. I just personally, it's like, man, it's so hard to put weight in that because you can never predict injuries. But you're right. There are guys that it just seems like they've got the injury bug and it just keeps hitting them. And for him, whether it was nagging stuff or stuff more serious, he was on the injury report quite a bit. So that makes some
Hmm.
sense. So news-wise, that's really all I had, unless there was something out there that you saw you wanted to cover.
Well, the Jawan James
Oh, from
injury
Denver.
from Denver. Yeah, like he apparently was working out off site, and like shortly after he got injured, I think he tore his Achilles or something. The league sent a memo to teams reminding them that you don't have to pay players if they get injured outside of the facility.
Oh, wow. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I heard about the injury, but I didn't hear about that part of it, that tie-in. That spices it up a little
Yeah.
bit.
So there's some talk that Denver might not pay him for this year because he was injured outside of the facility.
Gotcha. Well, I'm interested to see how that plays out because that would definitely draw a line in the sand and I'm sure piss off a ton of players and get the NFLPA going. But for the team,
Oh wow, he was specifically named in the league memo too
oh no, that's
for
never
the
a good thing.
non-football injury designation.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and that's a tough blow for Denver. The offensive line was already a point of weakness for them, and now they're losing a guy. I know they drafted Quinn Miners in from Wisconsin Whitewater to come in and help them, but I think he's more of a guard than a tackle. Hey,
Yeah,
I guess we'll see what happens there, man. That's it's tough. They got a young quarterback in Drew Lock. Well, and they brought in Teddy Bridgewater. Either way, they got a lot of weapons, but you got to keep your quarterback up so that they can do something. So, I mean, we talk
hmm
about that all the time.
and it's a perfect segue to the other news where the Lions extended Ragnow.
Oh crap, man! I can't believe I didn't think about that one. Geez, yeah, he signed a highest paid deal for a center, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like 54 million for over 4 years. So I guess they have him through what is it, 2026 now? because they had
Okay.
a year this year and next year left on his rookie deal or something like that.
So what do you think about that deal?
I like it. I think he's been solid, and I mean, like we always talk about, you got to take care of your offensive line. You got to build that offensive line. He's young. He's been solid. I think every year he gets better and better.
Yeah, I
So I
agree with you,
mean,
man. I agree with you. I like it. I like him as a player. I did like his jacket at the draft that had the lions on the inside. I'm sure you saw that. That was pretty cool.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I know. I'm good with it, man. I do get nervous with how much money we've put into the offensive line, and I don't know that it's consistent with their performance. But I don't think that's on Regno. I think that's on some of his counterparts. So,
Yeah, it's,
in the
I
past
think it was a
regime
good
signing
signing.
bad deals. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting spot in this article. So he started all 45 games he has appeared in and earned his first Pro Bowl last season, including playing through a fractured throat.
Oh, I remember the fractured throat. Yeah, that was that was
I
pretty
forgot
wild,
about
man.
that.
Yeah, that was intense.
So, so I mean, but that's just that right there. That's the type of player the Lions need, and with what's his face? What's the new coach's name?
Dan Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Dan Campbell. Like that seems like that just fits the Dan. Speaking of that, there's another spot. Um, fits under Dan Campbell's mentality. And then what's his face?
Yeah.
Hill retired. Hill retired this week. The tight end that we signed from.
Oh, the guy we just picked up, Josh Hill.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his first name, but he retired. I think it was Tuesday. It was announced Monday,
Well, that's a
and then
bummer.
they.
I did hear
But
that
they.
we signed another tight end.
Yeah, we signed. What's his face?
I think,
Fells
yeah, I was gonna
from
say Darren
Houston.
Fells. Yeah, I like that
Yeah,
pickup. I thought he was good.
yeah,
Ah, well, I didn't
yeah.
know
But
that
it's
that's what
just like,
spurred it.
yeah. I guess I don't know. I haven't seen a reason why he retired, but
Huh. All right. Well,
I,
hey.
my first thought was, oh, what does that say about the Lions organization right now? Because like he hasn't even made it to the season. He's like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, yeah. He just got in. And he's like, "Fuck this shit. I'm done."
Right, but at least he retired before like with he had nobody reported or anything, so it's not a glimpse into the organization. It's more
Yeah, a personal
of
thing. It sounds like.
so it's got to be something personal.
Okay. Anything else before we move on?
Nope, that was it.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, well then moving on. So tonight we're going to be focusing on our 2021 NFL draft analysis. Specifically, we're going to provide some of our favorite picks from the second round and later. And the reason we're looking at the second round or later is because that's really where the GMs make their money in this league. I've often heard in the past, and James, you probably heard something similar, that you have about a 50% chance of hitting on a pick in the first round, but it becomes significantly harder to find guys after that. And so that's why we want to focus on second round picks and later. We're assuming that's where it's hard to find those nuggets in the draft. And when I look at it, I'm sure you have some different factors that you look at, but the obvious thing is we're looking at guys who were rated high, whether it was by ESPN or a different source, that ended up falling, and so they ended up becoming a good value. And then I also like looking at guys that I thought were a sleeper pick with high upside, and then also I liked looking at guys that maybe I just thought they landed in a perfect scenario to have success at the next level, and so we'll talk a little bit about my reasoning for each guy as we go, but I'm sure you had probably a similar methodology. Was there anything sort of different than that you were looking for?
No, that's about it. I kind of looked at like on some of them, uh, replace like a perfect replacement for somebody like the last year or 2 years that the team lost, stuff like that. Kind of look at that like this player completely fits and like their style is exactly this player that they lost in free agency or they had to trade away because they were unhappy.
Gotcha, gotcha. Nice. Yeah, and that's kind of a little similar to like my perfect landing spot kind of methodology that I used. And yeah, I like that. Okay. Well, cool. So, what I thought for tonight is we could just kind of go back and forth. You pick a guy and give me your rundown. I'll pick a guy, give you my rundown, and we'll just kind of go back and forth through our list. And I'm sure we'll have a little bit of overlap so we can comment on each other's guys that we're naming. But this is just our pure opinion on guys that we think were either a good draft pick because of value or fit or whatever the reason. And how that translates at the next level remains to be seen. But there are definitely on paper picks that look better than others, and so we're just trying to flag some of those. So why don't you take it first here? Just give me a guy that you liked and why.
All right, so the first one I would mention would be is a fourth round pick. He was 129th overall. Jalen Darden, he was drafted by Tampa Bay from North Texas. He's a wide receiver.
Okay.
So Tampa Bay, they have the best wide receiver, like one of the best wide receiver cores in the league, and they just keep adding to it with him. He was probably the most productive wide receiver in all of college football last season. He had 19 touchdowns in 2020, 12 in 2019. He's fast. He's got a lot of playmaking instincts, and he's that catch and run type guy that like Brady could find underneath, and he could go for an 80-yard touchdown.
Gotcha. Nice. That's not one that I look too deep at. I like that, especially picking him more middle to late of the draft. That's a good pick to flag, man. Okay, are you good on that guy?
Yeah.
All right, so then kicking it my way, I'm gonna do a higher pick, second rounder that I liked. Not digging as deep as what you just did, but this is a pick that I think it's getting some attention, but these kind of picks fly under the radar historically. Is defensive tackle Christian Barmore from Alabama getting drafted by the Patriots at 38 overall? Uh, you know, it's a high pick. I mean, it's almost a first round pick. But I think this guy landed in a perfect spot. He's going to step into a defense which is going to be totally revamped from last year. And he's going to come in and help fortify that defensive line. And on top of that, just when I looked at what this team did, I thought outside of quarterback, defensive tackle was their biggest need and they landed a stud right there in the second round. And I think I just kind of in general like what the Patriots have done this offseason, but I think he's in a good spot to have immediate success. And so not digging as deep as you did with your guy, but still a pick I liked nonetheless.
Oh, just wait till I get to the sixth rounder I picked. But I Barmore was probably my favorite pick, one of my favorite picks in this draft. I mean, he can be a little inconsistent, but I mean, he's quick, he's powerful. It's just he's the perfect fit for that defense in New England.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm glad you like that. And
Plus I thought he was going to be like middle of the first round, not
yeah,
early second round.
yeah, and so it's a little bit of a value pick too. Not like as much as some of these other guys we're going to talk about, but yeah, it's yeah, some of them they can fit in more than one bucket. It could be value and it could be fit at the same time. And so I like that. And I've got a number of other second round picks that I like that I'll get to, but Why don't you give me your next one, man?
So my next one is which one do I want to do? I'll do it's a fifth round pick. It's Cornell Powell, wide receiver from Clemson, picked by the Chiefs. So you
Okay.
look at the Chiefs and the offense. They lost Sammy Watkins to free agency, and this is just a cheaper, almost clone of Sammy Watkins coming in.
Ah, okay.
It's just, I mean, they have immense talent at wide receiver, and they had the cap issue. So letting Sammy Watkins go and then just bringing in a perfect replacement to fit in for him. I mean, I love that pick.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, hey, that offense is rock solid. You get a guy that can come in, and I mean, really, like, what are you saying? His ceiling to start is their number three guy. So that's safe
Mm-hmm.
for a rookie. It's like, hey, you got time to develop. You don't have to come in and be a number one or a number two right out the gate. And then, whenever you're ready, you got freaking Patrick Mahomes throwing to you anyhow. So he's gonna do you some favors. I like that, man. That's a
Yeah.
good one. Okay, so if you're good there, let me just kind of take a look at my list. So this is um, this is a pick that I'm just kind of jumping down a little bit. Uh, Pick number 158 is defensive tackle Davion Nixon. He Iowa guy who I just love Iowa defensive players, man. They come out. These are guys with a workman-like attitude and ethic. Typically, they just grind away and they're always trying to get better. They're fundamentally technically sound, and so I like the player. He was ranked number 95 by ESPN before the draft, and so I think Carolina is getting this guy for a steal at 158. And I know they drafted Derek Brown last year, but I think that this is, you're talking about a complementary piece. You can have a couple defensive tackles on that line. And I know that they had some bigger needs at defensive end, but they did draft some guys at defensive end last year too. And so either way, I'm a big fan of building up the trenches. And I think that this guy
Mm-hmm.
was a value pick at 158. And there's not a ton of pressure for him to jump in and have an immediate impact, but he definitely has the skills, the tools all appear to be there, the size, the height, weight, speed, strength, all that kind of fun stuff. And so that's one of the picks that I like. And
Yeah,
so,
so
yeah,
far, I guess there were off the field concerns about him, and but I mean, last year, even after drafting Brown, it looks according to what I'm seeing on it, they still gave up 5.2 yards a rush, so between the tackles. So you
yeah,
need
so
to
they
build
need
that
some
up a
help.
little bit.
Yeah. All right. So kicking it back your way, man.
So my next one, I'm gonna stay in the same round, a little bit earlier. Ian Sherwood, linebacker from where's he from? Auburn. I'm sorry, safe. I have conflicting information. Safety or linebacker
Oh, he's a hybrid.
from
Okay.
Auburn. So, I mean, this guy. You look at him. He kind of fits what I've seen Robert Sala's perfect defensive players are. He can play a bunch of positions. He lined up in the box. He lined up as deep safety. He could take over that Jamal Adams role that they lost a couple years with that trade, or they could put him up in linebacker as a run stopper. Probably make some special teams contributions. I mean, it's just at 146, getting like a hybrid like that kind of cheap, where you can kind of tinker with where you're putting them. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and it takes a little bit of creativity to find the right spot for a guy like that. That's sort of one of those hybrid guys. But you know, if you're willing to put in the time and the effort, those kind of players can pay dividends for you on a defense.
Hmm.
Cool, 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 cool. So the next one I had, going back to the second round, is inside linebacker. Well, not necessarily inside linebacker. This actually kind of plays off ears. Another one of these sort of hybrid guys is linebacker Jeremiah Owusu Karamoa. He was the number 12 ranked prospect by ESPN and ended up sliding to number 152 by the Cleveland Browns. This is a guy that there were some concerns over a heart condition, which maybe led to him sliding. But I also heard there was concern about, really where does he fit on the defense? Is he an outside linebacker? Is he a safety? He seems a little bit light to play inside linebacker. Maybe you put him there and you expect him to kind of beef up a little bit. And so I heard some teams shied away just because of that, because they it's like, the creativity and the desire to kind of work with the guy wasn't necessarily there. But I think the pure talent, it's high. I mean, this is a guy that should have been a top 15 pick, and Cleveland's getting him at the end of the second round. I just think it was a steal of a pick, and hopefully they keep him at linebacker because that's also a big need for that team. Linebacker's been a position that they've just had a hard time locking down for a number of years. And so, give this guy some time and, maybe move him around a little bit this year until he finds what spot's the best for him. And then you lock him in. And so I think that was a great pick for the Browns, man.
Yeah, I like that pick. Like I had him kind of high second round. I know you had the heart concerns, but he went to like 7 different specialists or something, and
Yeah,
got tested and to prove that it wasn't a concern. Um, so I like that pick. All right, my
back your way,
next
man.
one,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
next one, we're gonna go to number 203 overall.
Okay. Ooh, yeah, digging deep. I like it.
Drafted by the Buffalo Bills, Marquez Stevenson.
Okay.
This guy is just super fast and explosive. I mean, he could possibly have the Devin Hester return role. He could probably slide into like the John Brown role from last year for the Bills, who they lost. I don't think it's possible, from what I'm reading about this guy, is how fast he is, that anybody can outthrow him or
Ah,
overthrow him. Like I think he's super explosive, and I mean, it, you got the special teams aspect, possibly filling the John Brown role. It's just picking those players that are just slightly making the teams better, and that's what the Bills have been doing for the last few years.
yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, Josh Allen's got the arm, so if you want a burner, that's the kind of quarterback that can use a burner, man. You just, like you said, you can't outthrow him. You just launch it and let him go get it. I like that.
Yeah,
Well, cool. And he's a late round pick, so there's not a ton of pressure on him. He'll come in and find his way, and I'm sure they're going to give him some time to kind of figure it out. And if he does progress to having significant time on the field, that's a bonus, man. I like that. Okay, so back my way. Um, that my next one, I'm actually going back to the well here with defensive tackles. There were a few of these guys I liked, and this one is defensive tackle Jay Tufeli from USC. He was ranked 82 by ESPN, and he was drafted 106 by Jacksonville. And so this is a guy. USC players, I'll be honest with you, I'm normally hot and cold on them. Um, I don't know, and maybe it's just me that they stick out in my mind. I just feel like a lot of them don't really make it in the NFL. Like they get more hype in college, and it doesn't really translate to the NFL for whatever reason. But this is a guy. He's a high motor player. Good size, 6'2", 305. And, you know, everything I read is that he still has potential to get better. And you want that. You don't want to draft a guy that's already capped out. And so, for the Jaguars, um, I think back a few years ago when they had Calais Campbell on that defensive line, and just all of the mass exodus of talent that defense has had. You're bringing a guy in, you're trying to lock down the trenches. I think this is a good start. You get a guy in the center of that line, and it can help a lot of the players around him. And it's not a huge steal. You're talking, I don't know, about a 12 round or 12 pick difference of where he was ranked versus where he went. But I think it's, anytime a guy like this slides at all and you can get your hands on him, you jump on it. And that's what they did. So I like that pick there.
My next one was pick number 83. Carolina Panthers, Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame, tight end.
Oh, nice.
First of all, he's a blocking tight end, and that's so rare to see. And that's how almost exclusively how Notre Dame used him. But it looks like, from what I'm reading about him, he can catch the ball too. So it's a little bit of a duel. He's staying in block. Is he going out on a route and get the underneath ball? And you need a tight end that can catch the ball when you have a quarterback that's trying to gain their confidence like Sam Darnold is.
Yeah, and I mean, Notre Dame's been basically a tight end factory for years, pumping out guys into the pros. And yeah, I've heard with Tremble, basically the best is yet to come with his receiving ability. And so this could be a really good pick for the Panthers, who have a need at tight end. And so, yeah, I like that one. Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to go next here? You've been doing some later picks, so I guess let me try and match some of the later picks here. Okay, I've got this is a fifth rounder. It's a fifth rounder. It's safety Jamar Johnson going to the Denver Broncos at 164 overall. This is a guy out of Indiana. He was ranked 90th by ESPN. And, he's going to a team that has a pretty solid secondary. They just brought in some fresh cornerback help. They re-signed Simmons to a longer-term deal, or I know they franchised him. I think they got a longer-term deal done. But so he's coming in with a group of guys that are solid all around him. And he's going to have time to develop, and he's got a lot of good players to learn from as he's getting his feet under him. But I just heard bits and pieces of his time at Indiana that this guy had serious flash potential. And so with the right coaching, Vic Fangio, this guy could step up and in time, I think, be a very solid starter in the NFL. And they're getting him at a great pick, man, in the fifth round. So I think that was a good pick for Denver.
Yeah, it was a good pick. My next one, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions pick.
Let's do it. I want to hear it.
And I kind of debated back and forth on this between two of them.
Okay.
Which one I liked more, but I ended up with the compensatory pick that we got in the Stafford trade, which was pick 101, I believe. I believe that was the compensatory pick. Anyways, if Fiatu
Melifonwu,
he's this guy. From what I see of this guy, he's possibly going to be the number one corner on the team in a couple years. From what I've seen from Akuda and what I've seen from this guy, he has possible shutdown talent on the perimeter. He can he's physical and he's fast and physical. And I honestly expected him to be middle towards late second round, not late third round. as a pick. He's got he's just it's interesting to see what this player could develop, and he might not have like the elite instincts yet, or hasn't shown it. But I mean, he was playing in Syracuse, so we'll see how he develops further. But I like the Lions draft overall. I thought they brought in players that fit the mindset of Campbell. So
Yeah, I like the pick, and I agree with you for the Lions. You know, I've been bitching and moaning about Lions drafts going back as long as I can remember, 15 plus
mm-hmm.
years, easily 15 plus years. And, I can't tell you how many times they would grab a guy in the second round that almost unanimously had like a fucking 6th round grade on him. They did it every year, man, every freaking year. And this year, I liked it because I like the picks just in general. They didn't do anything super flashy, and that's fine. You don't have to have impact. Um, but they were all appropriately picked. They didn't do that where they in the past reached for guys. They grabbed guys where they were supposed to grab them, and they grabbed guys that looked like they have that sort of nastiness, that persona that the team wants. And with Melifonwu, I agree with you. All the tools are there. Everything I read, height, weight, speed, all that, is that this guy could develop into a starting cornerback at some point in his career. It's not totally translated to the field just yet, but that's okay. He's not a 1st round pick. You can bring him along. You have guys in front of him that it takes some of that pressure off. But they did it with a good evaluation, in my opinion. And so I definitely like that pick, man.
Yeah, and that's what when we hired Brett Holmes, I was trying to convey is everything I had heard about Holmes was like he was, even though he hadn't been in that like top tier position in the organization, he was very involved in the Rams draft and drafting process, and like everything I said, like you look at the Rams and how they normally draft, they find these gems in like the 6th round that nobody knows that end up being fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and hey, we need that, man. We need a real GM. We need a guy that can find some talent. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, man, fingers crossed, James. Fingers crossed. Okay, cool. So if we're good there, we'll flip it back my way. My next pick, I'm jumping up and down. I'm going to go back to the 2nd round here. It's inside linebacker Nick Bolton. Um, this is a guy from Missouri. He was ranked 31 by ESPN and drafted at 58 by the Kansas City Chiefs. And so basically, this is a guy where I think just looking at the value, ranked 31st, you're getting him at 58. That's tremendous value. And then, for the team, it fills a huge need. They've been missing solid linebacker play for many, many years, kind of just like I was talking about with the Cleveland Browns. And this is a guy who was viewed by some as the best run defender in the class. And to me, when I hear stuff like that, it speaks volumes because, James, this was like the deepest freaking inside linebacker class in a long time from everything I've read. And I always follow the linebacker class because I used to play linebacker back in the day. And I just, I love these guys. And they don't get a lot of publicity. And they typically, like this year, a number of them slid down the board. And I got a few more on my list to talk about. But I think the Chiefs got a freaking steal with this guy in the 2nd round, man.
That's a good one. My next one, let me find my notes on him, is picked by the Dallas Cowboys in
Oh boy.
the 4th round. And you might push back on this a little bit, but so Jabril Cox, linebacker.
That was my next guy. I'm glad you're taking him because, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so I mean, first of all, Dallas's defense had a lot of problems last year. They needed help in the middle of the field, and they did it. They picked up what was it, two linebackers, defense, two defensive tackles, a defensive, and they're like trying to retool this entire fucking defense on the fly. But I mean, he's versatile. I had him. I thought he was going to be much higher than he went. Like I thought.
Yeah, he was ranked 45 by ESPN, man. That's a huge
Yeah,
slide.
yeah. I thought he'd be easily a second rounder, maybe early third round. I did not think he would be around as late as he was. He's as long as he can stay healthy, which is his drawback. He's very versatile, and he's one of those rare three down linebackers that you don't see in the league anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I loved the pick, and like I said, this was actually where I was going to be going next. I had some more linebackers on my list, and um, I have heard that they do have concerns about Van Der Esch, and we know that Sean Lee is no longer with the team. I think he may have retired.
Yeah, he
Um,
retired.
okay, thank you for clarifying. Um, and so I think the addition of Jabril Cox on top of them already getting Micah Parsons in the first round, and they still have Jalen Smith. I really like what they did with their linebacker group. I think that this is going to put that defense in a good position. But all those other guys that they drafted, basically, like you said, they're throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. They're going to see what sticks. This defense was freaking horrendous last year. So they still, they need a few of these guys to pop for that defense to turn around, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I guess that brings it back to me. Okay, so this pick is definitely not a flashy pick, but it's one that I liked, and it's offensive tackle James Hudson uh, going to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 110 overall. He was ranked 84 by ESPN, and this is a pick where it's a guy who's a little bit raw. He's got some developing to do. But I like the size, 6'5", 315 pounds. Um, you know, from what I hear, for his size, he moves really well. And I'm sorry, he's from Cincinnati. He went to Cleveland. Uh, I, I flipped that up when I was looking at my notes here. But what I like about it is that Cleveland already has a pretty solid offensive line, and they're just bringing in another guy to keep it deep, keep it solid, and a lot of their game now revolves around running the ball with their two guys, with Chubb and Hunt. I just think that it's a smart thing to do. I thought the same thing with Tennessee when they went out and got their tackle. It's like, hey man, if you're running the ball primarily, make sure that line is stacked. Just go and get a guy every year just to make sure that you got some depth there. And so I like what they did with this pick.
Yeah. The intriguing part I found about this pick is he's only played offensive tackle for 3 seasons in college. He used to play defensive tackle and switched over in
Yeah.
2018. So I mean, to be as talented as show as much as he has in that short amount of time, I mean, he could easily be Pro Bowl, the Hall of Famer eventually if he continues on that trajectory.
Well, since you mentioned that, it's worth noting that one of his reports came back that his arm length was a little bit shorter than a lot of people like, or a lot of these, NFL guys
Mm-hmm.
like for a tackle. And so, we've seen it, the success of these borderline tackle prospects kicking into guard in just being dominant in the NFL. And so maybe that's where his best fit is. And they just got to get him in there and move him around to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man, back your way.
So my next one is the last pick in the third round
Okay.
by the Denver Broncos. It's another linebacker. It's Baron Browning
Okay.
from Ohio State. I mean he has some drawbacks with him, but when you look at him, he can play all over the field. He can he can line up anywhere. He has speed and athleticism to make huge plays all over the field. I think ultimately I see him as like a poor man's Patrick Queen.
Okay.
Like he could have that talent there, and he could be.
That's
It
impressive.
could have been
Yeah.
as highly as touted as Patrick Queen if he wasn't so raw, and he was more consistent in college. If you can get that consistency in, I think he can be a top tier linebacker in this league for years to come.
I like that. And just in general, I like the guys from Ohio State. I think that you're getting linebackers that know how to play. They face good competition, and I don't know. I just get a good feeling about some of the Ohio State guys, and so obviously we know they're mostly blue chip guys. Ohio State's been a top team for a long time now in college football, but yeah, and that's you're talking also go into a team that has a defensive minded coach, and you're giving him some weapons on his side of the ball. Um, and they needed help there. I think they had Josie Jewell at linebacker, and I'm trying to remember who else, but he'll come in and he can be a factor. That they'll find a spot for him. So I like that pick. Okay, so coming back my way, this one, I've been doing a lot on the defensive side of the ball. I know I just hit an offensive lineman before, but I'll do one more on the offense, which is running back Michael Carter going to the New York Jets. This is the running back Michael Carter, not the whoever the other Michael Carter was, the defensive back that they got. But so Michael Carter out of North Carolina, a little bit undersized, but he was part of a phenomenal tandem at North Carolina, and he's going to the Jets. I liked this pick because it's one of these opportunity picks. He's going to a team that doesn't have a clear-cut number one at running back, and he's going to come in and have that opportunity to earn playing time, and maybe as early as this year be that guy. I mean, we're talking beating out Tevin Coleman, and I mean, I got to believe Tevin Coleman's probably the front runner, and he's not. Tevin Coleman's never been a true number one in this league, so this guy has a path to production. And on top of that, he's got a young quarterback. They drafted Zach Wilson, and they've got frickin' what was the guy Mekhi Becton at
Mekhi
offensive
Becton, yeah.
tackle. It's like, hey, he can come in and I don't know. I just think it's a good fit, a good opportunity, and let's see what this guy can do.
Yeah, a lot of rumblings since the draft is that Michael Carter was the better running back down in North Carolina. So I definitely agree with that pick.
Yeah, and man, it's tough. So I think he's just a hair over 200 pounds, which to me is a little bit light for a running back if he's going to be a workhorse. But in the league now, there's so many running back by committees that it maybe isn't an issue. Um, but the thing that I heard about him and the other guy was that the success of running backs coming out of college in a tandem is few and far between. And so basically it was saying buyer beware.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when you have two backs that are good from the same school, it means there's something with the system or whatever the competition. And so, there is maybe some risk reward with this pick, but I liked him better myself as well than Javonte Williams, I believe was the other guy. So, um, Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, cool, man. Back to you.
All right. So this is a Green Bay Packers pick.
Ooh, all right. Let's hear it.
Third round pick, 85th overall, Amari Rogers, wide receiver from Clemson. And
Rogers to Rogers.
well, love
Maybe,
to
yeah, yeah,
Rogers, more
maybe,
like
maybe, maybe.
love
We'll talk about
love
that.
to love to Rogers maybe, but I mean
Yeah.
this is he's kind of he's a playmaker. He's got strong hands. He's a good slot receiver, kind of sliding into that Randall Cobb role where up in Green Bay where he had a lot of success, and which is, I mean, just even if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, like this is a weapon that Aaron Rodgers could have used if he was there, and it's the first. I mean, granted, he's a third rounder, but still, it's a solid playmaking wide receiver that they need alongside Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean it just blows my mind that they've not put more resources into wide receivers in recent years. But um, yeah, I don't know. The Rogers to Rogers thing would be cool, but you're right. It may not. It may be love to Rogers. So time will tell. Time will tell. Um, okay, yeah, man. In this draft class, geez, there were just so many wide receivers. Honestly, I got to a point where it was a little bit overkill. I had to stop reading about them because there are just so many of them. And historically, wide receivers have such a high bust rate that it's just like I almost gave up doing homework on some of the guys later on because I was just like, I don't know, man. Are they really all that good? Or, I got to take it with a grain of salt sometimes. But, definitely everybody had just a phenomenal scouting report on them in this draft, man. It was wide receiver rich, at least on paper. Okay, so back my way. I'm going to keep it on the offense again, and I'll be running low on offensive players here soon. But this pick, I like the pick. I'm not really sure what the future is for this guy and the team, but it's tight end Brevin Jordan out of University of Miami. He was picked number 147 by Houston, and he was ranked 87 by ESPN. And so this, in my opinion, is a solid value pick. It's a guy that really he's a very one-dimensional tight end. This is a receiving tight end. He's a mismatched tight end. It's all about his physical ability, his speed, and his quickness. Um, Not a blocker. You're not going to get a whole lot of that out of the guy. Also, he's still a little bit raw as a receiver. He's been given the knack of being a body catcher. And so, that's a little bit of a concern, but I think where they're getting him, it's great value. It's just, what's going to happen with Houston? Is he going to have Deshaun Watson throw into him? Is he going to have Davis Mills throw into him? I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. Do you know, James, did they hang on to Jordan Atkins?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Nonetheless, they lost Fells, so Jordan is going to have a chance here of at least being in the mix somehow. And whoever's at quarterback, they're going to want some people to throw to, and he's one of those kinds of tight ends. So I like the pick. Well
Nice.
worth the risk at that point in the draft.
So my next one, I'm gonna go with the player that went third round. Uh, Pick number 100, right before the Lions.
Okay.
Elijah Molden, cornerback from Washington. He went to Tennessee. So I mean, he's that I everything I read about him, he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife defender that could play down there in Tennessee. He can play in the slot. He can play against out wide. And in fact, like the best quote I read about this guy, it was from newly drafted Lion Levi Unwizard Levi.
Yes. Yes.
Um, he apparently his Molden was one of the smartest players he's ever seen.
Gotcha.
and and compared him to Tyrann Mathieu.
Oh, wow.
And to get that type of player in the late third round, like almost the end of the third round, I mean that's high value and it's a great player. And yeah, they did draft Caleb Farley, a cornerback also, but I believe they needed two down there, and so
Yep.
they got their first and their second guy, second cornerback, or maybe even their slot corner. Uh, their slot corner or their second cornerback in Elijah Molden. And plus, that will take a little bit of the pressure off of Caleb Farley, who is the first round pick, to kind of take the pressure off that he doesn't have to be the be all end all in that secondary.
Yeah, no, I remember talking a little bit briefly about both those guys last week, and yeah, they did lose Malcolm Butler and Dory Jackson, and yeah, I thought it was good for Tennessee landing both these guys. I think that was an effective way of backfilling those losses. And they're rookies, so they may need a little bit of time to get up to speed, but everything I read about both those guys, I liked a lot. Okay, so kicking it back my way. I'm going back up to the second round, getting kind of high back up here again. But this is one that I for sure wanted to talk about tonight because I thought it was just a great pick. Was offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State, drafted by the Bears at 39 overall. This is a high pick, another one of these borderline first round picks, but it's important to point out because offensive linemen, defensive linemen often fly under the radar. And the Bears went out, they traded up, and they got their franchise quarterback in the first round. And, in Justin Fields, point that out. Everybody should know that by now. But then they came back around in the second round and they grabbed a highly rated offensive lineman to help protect their quarterback. And so I like pointing that out because to me, you see this every year where there's a team that goes out and drafts a quarterback and then they completely neglect to protect them, such as what happened last year with Joe Burrow. And so, to me, it's like this is similar to the Barmore pick with New England, where it flies under the radar, but it has the potential to be hugely important for this team. And it kills me because I'm a Lions fan and the Bears did great in the draft. But I got to give them credit. There is credit due here for the way that they did this. They got their quarterback and they got him a protector. And so I like what they did there.
Yeah, I definitely like Jenkins. Yeah, Jenkins. That's the one you were talking about, right? Yeah.
Correct.
I think I had him. I thought I had him. Yeah, I had him as a first rounder. So I mean that's definite value pick there for in my book. So my next one is probably close to one of the only value picks the Raiders drafted in the entire fucking draft.
uh,
So probably the best safety in this entire draft
oh yeah.
was Trayvon Moehrig, and he was actually ended up being the third safety to go in the second round, the 11th pick of the second round. So I mean, he's sideline. He's got the sideline to sideline speed. He can be a center fielder. He can come down. He can come down into the box and run support. He'll go well against or next to Abram. I just can't believe that he lasted as long as he did. I was sure he would go. I almost had him in the first round in the mock drafts I went through.
Oh, I would have, yeah, I would have taken him in the first round, man. I mean, everything I read about him was clear cut top safety, borderline top 15 pick. I was shocked that, and other safeties got drafted ahead of him. I was just wondering, what the heck am I missing here? Because I've not seen anything to indicate that.
Yeah, and this is just a little example of it. As this is from the analysis on NFL.com. He's most important. The TCU standout is an exceptional open field tackler with an aggressive read and reaction approach that enables him to blow up wide receiver screens at the line of scrimmage.
I like hearing that.
I, that's the wide receiver screen is one of the biggest plays in that Kansas City likes to run, and
Oh, that's
that
nice to point out. Yeah.
this pick is definitely a pick that is going directly at the best team in that division in Kansas City.
I think that's huge to point out, man. I'm glad that you did that because, the Raiders, they did get a win over the Chiefs last year. And
They almost got two.
yeah, so they're like saying, "Hey, you're the top dog. We're coming for you." I like that
Mm-hmm.
you pointed that out. That was nice, man. Okay, cool. So kicking it back to me, and just giving you a heads up here. I'm starting to scrape the bottom of my list, but I do got a couple more guys if you want to keep going. Um, this next guy is cornerback Sean Wade out of Ohio State. He was ranked number 100 on ESPN, and he was drafted at 160 by the Baltimore Ravens. This is a guy I liked this pick. Obviously, Baltimore, they just always find talent, and they find these guys and make them into studs. But if you go back to 2019, there was a ton of hype and a ton of great reviews on Sean Wade. He was playing slot cornerback for the Buckeyes at the time. This past year, they moved him to the outside, and his performance sort of fell off a cliff. It was pretty rocky. I think at the next level, a lot of people are saying he's either going to go back inside or they could bump him to safety. But we know that in that more natural position for him, the talent is there. Don't force this guy to be on the outside. Not everybody's made to be on the outside. But one of the things I like about him that you don't always see in cornerbacks, in fact, it's more rare than you see it, but he is a solid tackler. And so whether you put him in the slot or maybe you try and convert him to safety, this is a guy that is going to make the plays when he needs to make them. And so, just don't force him to go outside. That's all I'm saying. And if you do that, this guy could be a really great value pick at 160 overall, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So so for me, I did 10, and then I've added a couple here and there as I thought about it more.
That's kind of
So
how I was. And so we're already past 10, James. But,
yeah,
if you got
so
another one, go ahead, throw it out there.
I got one more, and so going into the draft, it was talked about how the Saints were trying to trade up into the top 10 to pick a cornerback, and so they ended up picking a cornerback at in the third round, what number was he? Number 76 overall,
Hmm.
and this he probably would have been a middle early second rounder. He definitely would have gone higher, but he opted out in 2020
Oh, yeah.
from Stanford, Paulson Adebo. So he's got skills on the he's got skills on the ball. He can make plays. He's got speed and size that fits into the Saints defensive scheme, and it's a direct need that they had going into this draft.
Yeah, I think that was a good pick. The Saints, they were fairly stacked at defensive back, and they lost some guys, and they
Mm-hmm.
knew that they needed to do something, and whatever they did had to have impact right away. And I was watching NFL Network. I don't even know how long ago it was, and they were talking about Davis Mills and Paulson Adebo, and basically they cited a source. I can't remember which one it was that had the production score from his last season, and it was the highest of any cornerback in college football.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, yeah, like you're saying, the opt out obviously has people wondering what's going on, but um, I think that on its own makes the guy worth looking into, and especially where they drafted him, rolling the dice to see if you're going to get some of that action at the next level. So I think that
Yeah.
was a good pick, man.
And your last one.
Oh, you want me to do? I was just going to call it, but here, let me see who else I got in here. Um, we can go a little. I could go offense or I could go defense. Let me just look real quick who I got. I got two guys I'm between. Um, all right, so I'll go defense, and I'm going to go outside linebacker Chris Rumph the second from Duke. This is a guy who was ranked 67 overall by ESPN, drafted 118 by the Chargers. I did not see this guy sliding the way that he did in the draft. And the reason for that is that this was a very, very shallow outside linebacker class. And so I thought, if anything, somebody was going to go and get him a little bit earlier, and it was the exact opposite. But this is a guy with great size, 6'3", 245 pounds. Um, you know, I wonder, maybe it's that he was at Duke. I don't know what really was working against him here, but um, I think he landed in a great spot going to the Chargers. They need help at linebacker. And so, something's obviously I'm missing something for him to have slid like he did. But I just think, you got a guy that was a great value pick, man, for where he was ranked versus where you nabbed him. And he definitely can contribute sooner than later on a team that has, linebacker being a weaker position group. So that would be my last one, James.
I thought I had read something about why he kind of slid.
Okay.
I'm just seeing if I can pull it up real quick because, as you saw with some of my picks, I did some depth, went into some depth with this.
Heck yeah. That's the best part about doing this.
Yeah, I'm not finding it.
All right.
Ah, there we go. Nope, I nothing about why he dropped.
Well,
Huh?
let's just see how it plays out for the kid, you know?
Yeah,
Something,
I like
somebody
what the
saw
Chargers.
something. Yeah.
I like what the Chargers did in the draft. I think I mean you could go like you could have gone a lot of ways with their picks in the draft, and I like the Rump one. I thought you could have gone with Samuel or also.
Well, and you know what? I did have him on my list. If I was going to go back up to the second round, I thought I'd dig a little bit deeper. But yeah, I thought they had a good draft overall. I liked what they did.
Or or hell, you could have gone with Marcus Webb, the seventh rounder. I mean, he was projected to go in the fifth round, but yeah,
They were all about the value, man.
yeah. Corner safety hybrid, versatile, versatility. You could have gone a lot of ways with that, but I like the wrong pick.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, hey, so that's our segment there on our favorite picks from outside the second round. Um,
Outside the first round.
or outside, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Um, so let's kick it over to our question of the week, and I want to come back to the Aaron Rodgers thing because you're hearing stuff, I'm hearing some different stuff apparently, and so my question of the week, it's a two-part question. It's will Aaron Rodgers play football this year, and if so, will it be in Green Bay? And I haven't done any crazy digging on my own. I've just seen the stuff that's like smacking you in the face when you watch NFL Network or go to NFL.com or whatever. My opinion of this, just when I kind of look at it from 50,000 feet, is that I think they're going to find a way to figure it out. And you talked about this before, James, where maybe that means they got to fire the GM to do it. But they've already started posturing by saying LaFleur wasn't involved in the decision to draft Jordan Love. So that's taking step number one towards saying, hey, if it's really a big problem, maybe we get this guy out of here. And, maybe that makes you a little bit happier. But it's obviously a dysfunctional organization, so anything can happen. And I've heard Aaron Rodgers is a very, very stubborn person. So if he's serious about playing chicken, maybe he does bounce out. The problem I have is when I look at where he could get traded and what are the odds that they could actually pull off such a high profile trade at this point in the year, I just think it's such a freaking super, super low probability. And I think based on that, his best chance at making another Super Bowl run is if he just guts it out and plays in Green Bay. And so who knows? But I don't know. I just think more likely than not, they're going to figure it out. He knows he's beaten out Jordan Love. So, I don't know. What do you think, man?
So I speculated about my answer a number of months ago. January, middle of February, I told you that I thought Rodgers was going to retire.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to retire. First of all, Green Bay can't trade him until after June 1st. It's a $17 million difference in the cap hit between if they trade him before June 1st or if they trade him after June 1st. Secondly, apparently in text messages, Rodgers was referring to Gutekunst as Jerry Krause.
Okay.
Now, the significance of that is the fact that Jordan, who is obviously the best player on the Bulls, didn't respect and hated Jerry Krause. Third point on it is apparently this offseason when free agents that were considering signing with Green Bay contacted Rodgers, he said, don't sign there assuming I will be there.
Yeah, that is pretty serious when you're making those comments because you're messing with people's careers, and it's like you wouldn't do that unless you were really dead set on backing that statement up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
The last aspect of it is apparently in text message exchanges with Brett Favre, he's just being cryptic about stuff that was going on up there, but basically said, once this is all over, I'll sit down and chat with you. Type of thing.
Huh.
Once this is all over.
Interesting. Okay. Huh.
So I think signs are pointing his stubbornness. He could give two shits about writing an $11 million check back to the Packers, or $20 million check, or whatever the fuck it is. He could care less. He's done with the Packers, period. And it sucks because it's the fans. He had the opportunity to deny any reports of a rift between the Packers and him, off camera, on camera, in interviews. You go back and you look at his interviews since the NFC Championship game. It was more reflective and almost like he was saying goodbye to Green Bay.
So you think he's out, not even going to play at all this year? He's just going to retire and it's done.
I think the Packers are going to try to call his bluff, and he's going to say, I told you I would retire. I'm done. I retire.
Damn. That's intense. Well, I like your analysis. Okay, so for anyone who's still watching, similar to Name That Stadium, we want to get your thoughts on this. If you have an opinion about the situation with Aaron Rodgers, hit us up. Give us some comments. Let us know what you think. Outside from that, that's all I got for tonight, James. We just got to figure out what the heck we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, we're going to have to go into breakdowns of the teams. You know what, though?
I mean, we could get really cheesy and do favorite mascot,
Yeah,
you know?
we we could talk about Aaron Rodgers' retirement next week.
Yeah, just a whole show on that.
Yeah, because you know it's going to happen.
You think it'll happen that soon?
I think it could.
Damn. Well, if it does, then there you go. Next week, that's what we'll talk about. We'll do a whole recap on his career, and we'll do a whole recap on the mess on how it got to here. And yeah, I'm fine with that. All right. Well, hey, man, any closing thoughts?
No, I don't have anything additional.
Gotcha. Well, this is like a new speed record of recent memory for us. We're at about an hour 115. Okay, so for anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. If you did, give us that thumbs up or a like if it's on Facebook or whatever. And if you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. But most importantly, shoot us some comments. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to engage. And heck, if you have some ideas on what you want us to talk about next week, let us know and we'll look into it. All right, James, like always, man, it was fun. I'll catch you in a bit.
All right, have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.